Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session.
In the winter of 2025, knowing traditional spring protest season was soon to start, and with growing anti-government sentiment regarding mass immigration being perpetrated upon an unwilling population, and a cost of living, housing and homeless crisis, the Australian government launched a devious plan. The COVID-era protests of 2022 saw the largest protest in Australia's history. And since then, various groups had organised and were fighting the political overreach in the courts and challenging jurisdiction. As the persecution of the people continued, the number of people seeking remedy continued to rise. A desperate government deployed a psychological operation, otherwise known as PSYOPs, in order to regain control of the narrative. In a staged event, the Australian flag was burnt and the narrative spun to appear as though it had been done at a Palestinian protest. Suitably enraged people were posting on social media calling this out. The next deployment was an AI-generated video calling for Australians to stand up with the flag for Australia. Propped up by bots and reposts, the video went viral. Then came the call to action, 31st of August. Was it chosen because of the false flag event of the Second World War where Hitler invaded Poland? The unaware people claimed it, and the protest was on. The next deployment was the ownership transfer to the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, and the 18-year-old supposed poster and date setter disappeared. Clouded under a shroud of secrecy, the organisers and speaker, the event, when scrutinised, revealed close ties to white nationalist organisations. Although the narrative was spun as that it was grassroots, the event had been hijacked by white nationalist idealists. Media assets simultaneously spun the organisation was headed for.
This has got a great potential to go pear-shaped.
While hyping the issues caused by mass immigration. Suspicious freedom fighters, upon discovering the white nationalist agenda, pulled support. Bickering escalated and the freedom movement was split. State television ran a hit piece on what they erroneously dubbed the sovereign citizens, emphasising a turn to violence, giving the example of White Ambler, although they admitted that the trains were in fact not sovereign citizens, and having to go to America and back 15 years in order to establish one act of violence. Indeed, they had to do some digging because the freedom movement is made up of a collective of many people groups who only have one thing in common: peaceful resistance. Dishonestly, they ignored the violence perpetrated upon peaceful protesters by their own government during the COVID lockdown. On the day of the protest, two groups of government operatives were dispersed among the people. The first, people with obvious immigrant background sporting alternative flags. The second group tailored to look more like white nationalists. A brawl broke out, with the mainstream media on standby to capture all. Later, a group of immigrants were attacked and possibly shot. Blame was laid on the white nationalists. Over the next week, the media hype ran with visuals of the brawl and audio of white nationalists speaking of the virtues of white society and the difficulty of immigration. The organisers' prior posts were resuscitated, and every media channel ran their white supremacist narrative.
The Australian public are going to have to accept Hitler in their hearts, in their schools.
So, protect Australian heritage, culture, way of life. Next step, protect European culture, heritage, way of life. The next step is protect white heritage. So it all means the same thing. It's just different ways to put it. Australian heritage, by saying it that way, it is more appealing to the public. It's going to deter them from saying, oh, it's a Nazi rally, blah, blah, blah.
Previous supporters denounced the action. Young people who had supported this on social media were forced to offer retraction.
Every time the media or the left screeches Nazi, we try to scramble to justify
Offered retractions due to the narrative of white supremacy. The law-abiding freedom fighters, previously categorised as sovereign citizens, were labelled to white nationalists and were listed as Nazis and terrorists. The government were able to legislate against online terrorism, emailing your representative as viewed as paperwork terrorism and harassment. Anti-Semitism laws were strengthened and gun laws more restrictive. Previously voted down protest laws were retabled and rushed through.
As soon as possible, the changes to protest laws to protect...
Every previously classified freedom fighter was reclassified as a domestic terrorist, and bank accounts frozen, charges laid, and jails expanded. But the people, being descended from Cumming stock, recognised the playbook, shared this video, and the government were unable to conduct the operation. Having their operation thwarted, they regrouped, but it was already too late for them. Defiance being the Aussie superpower, the people started to refuse en masse and became ungovernable. And then, the people won.